What a crazy weekend. So much stuff to get to. And obviously there is somewhat of a mysterious break. Pennsylvania, McDonald's. Did they catch the CEO killer, the handsome killer? By the way, Bell and I were talking about that before the show. If you could have heard what we said, you would laugh so hard. But you can't because this is radio.
You would either laugh or be calling her boss.
Yes, somebody already said, Chad has a potty mouth. You have no idea. So listen to my podcast. First, though, Syria, nightmare. And the spring has sprung in Syria. So if you guys remember, go back many, many moons. The Arab Spring brought us this nightmare. And now, umpteen years later, there's been a massive civil war. Over the last 2 weeks, there has been an absolute rush to get to Damascus. They saw weakness, and the weakness comes from the fact that Russia is struggling, Iran can't help anymore, and so the ties that bind. I was joking with our boss earlier. I said, if you really want to have a successful relationship, don't find somebody you have something in common with. Find somebody you have a common hate in. So if you guys have common hate, it's going to work. Guess what? Here's what everybody hated. They hated Assad. 50 years they've hated Assad. You had Israel, Turkey, several pro-Syrian, super democratic freedom fighters, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, HTS, who we'll get to in a second, as well as the Kurds, as well as us blowing things up, trying to slow down ISIS, all come together as one bizarre unit of death, and they rolled through big time. What's it leave? This is about to be Haiti. This is what this is about to be. This is about to be a nightmare like you could not believe in the Middle East, because Turkey now has on their border a group or two or five of organizations that want nothing to do with Turkey. They're already fighting the Kurds. Then you throw in Israel, which took a buffer zone, which was crazy. And they said, let's move back in there. And they bombed Damascus yesterday. Then you've got ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Al-Nuri, and all these other wackadoo groups that are, again, coming together. This is like, when I talk about how bad this is going to be, this is going to be the kind of bad that makes Afghanistan like, yeah, I could go there for vacation. That's the kind of bad that this is setting up to be.
HTS is a U.S. designated terrorist organization and has been since 2018. Jelani, its leader, is a specifically designated terrorist as well. So, yes, they have somewhat separated themselves from Al-Qaeda and ISIS, but their origins are that, and many of their fighters are still part of that overall jihadist movement.
Well, boy, jihadist movement's good times right there. So the big news, though, out of all of this is Iran is screwed. The axis of, as I like to call them, a-holes are done. Russia lost a port. Russia lost a lot of things and its footprint really in the Middle East in the way that they had it and they hadn't had it before. What do they get? They get hat in hand Assad and his family, who have a bunch of property in and throughout Moscow and St. Petersburg. They brought with them $2 billion, of which I'm sure they're going to have to at least surrender half of that to Putin. And they've ostracized them from even more parts of the world. But on top of that, they have now pissed off even more of the jihadist out there by allowing him to come there. This is a absolute major loss, and a major loss for Iran, too. So think about this if you're Iran. You've now lost your movement in and throughout the likes of Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, you're getting thumped by the Houthis, and, of course, Hamas. It's just a nightmare for you. All the while, this is leading up to the fact that we're going to have a new president, which is going to be interesting to see how he handles this stuff. Because remember, there was a red line drawn by Obama with Assad. Not to do what? Not to use chemical weapons, which is everybody's terror because there's tons of chemical weapons there. He used chemical weapons. Obama did nothing. Did it again. Trump lit him up. Now what's going to happen here? Is there going to be a rise of ISIS? Are they going to get chemical weapons? And as we all know, when jihad has stuff, they love to use it. But craziness and chaos. And I don't expect I expect this to be far worse than people have any idea. That's how nasty it is going to be over there. And we're talking about, and we've got men and women over there in harm's way. So, God willing that it contains itself to certain parts of the city, because now you have 10 groups that all help get themselves to there, and you've got a leader now in HTS, this guy who's leading everybody, who he says he's moderate, says all the right things. That's because they all say that. Nobody ever says, all right, now I'm going to enslave you, right? Because you had 50 years of Assad's family, 50 years of brutality. They went in, they were opening up jails. They were opening up jails that were below jails to allow people out. There were people in prison, kids in prison, who've never been free a day in their life. They were born there. That's how bad it was. And now God knows how much money they're going to get, because they're going to do everything they can to peel off a bunch of cash and hand it to them. It is the chance for this thing to spill out and get ugly, I think, is very real. Then over the weekend, you had, yes, the man, the myth, the legend, Donald Trump, went on Meet the Press. Kristen Welker came, as like Chris said, she came with a big, giant, huge book of stuff that she was going to ask him. But the thing that matters, and this is the thing to me that always, when he won in 2016, he complained about this, he complained about that, he said this, he said that, but then he went back to jobs, groceries, life. Then he went on to immigration, Hillary's bad, jobs, groceries, life. Hillary's bad, Hillary's horrible, lock her up, jobs, groceries, life, groceries. He was asked this weekend, why'd you win?
Groceries. I won on two things, the border, and more than immigration. They like to say immigration. I break it down more to the border, but I won on the border, and I won on groceries. It's a very simple word, groceries. I started using the groceries. When you buy apples, when you buy bacon, when you buy eggs, they would double and triple the price over a short period of time. And I won an election based on that. We're going to bring those prices way down.
It's true. As goes your pocketbook, so goes how we feel in a lot of ways. If you're doing well, you feel like I don't want to upset the apple cart. If things are going well and you're kicking some butt, you don't want to really change anything. You may not like this or you may not like that, but you know what? I don't want to blow this thing up. Groceries. I just thought that, that's it. And I think he knocked it out of the park. And it's so funny because I try to tell people, Trump he's a comic and an entertainer in so many ways. He gets in front of a crowd. He's going to go where the crowd tells him to go. If the crowd wants more of something, he's going to give them more of something. He wants to laugh. He wants to cheer. He wants all that stuff. When he sits down one-on-one, you listen to him and you're thinking, that guy is much different because he's a born entertainer. That's why it's so hard for anybody to try to Trump, if that makes sense. They talked about a lot of different things, obviously Ukraine being one of them. And, this weekend he met with Macron. They shook hands rather bizarrely for several occasions. It was kind of interesting to watch them shake hands. The funny thing about Macron is he seems to have this relationship where he likes Trump. And I think it's one of those things where when you meet him, it's hard not to like him. You may not like his politics, but it's one of those things where it's hard. My buddy who's uber lefty did some stuff after 9/11 stuff with Bush. And he said, man, because I don't agree in his politics, but it's hard not to like the guy. He's a good guy. I think there's a lot with that with Trump. There is a lot of that with Trump. And you saw Macron and him and Zelensky sitting down. Now everybody's starting to realize, yeah, this is happening. This thing's going to end much quicker than people realize. And that's a good thing.
There are people being killed in that war at levels that nobody's ever seen before. You have to go back to the Second World War, and even that, you know what it is? It's the soldiers largely. The cities have been emptied out and demolished. The country has been demolished. If I won that election, kept control, number one, Israel wouldn't have happened. Number two, Ukraine would have never happened. It would have never happened, Ukraine, Russia.
I can say, I think, without a doubt, I don't think Ukraine and Russia would have happened. Tough to say with Israel because you're dealing with jihadis and they're, as you all know, a bit crazy. Anybody willing to blow themselves up for something screams a bit crazy to me. But it's hard to deny that this would have happened under Trump's watch. And I think even the most ardent Trump hater says, yeah, that's a tough one to deny.
But the number of people that are being killed, soldiers, young, beautiful soldiers, hundreds of thousands of people are being killed. And, you know, it's very interesting. It's level, totally level. The battlefields, totally level. You know what's happening? Yeah. The only thing that stops a bullet, you know what it is a body, a human body. And the people that are being killed, hundreds of thousands on both sides. Russia's lost probably 500,000. Ukraine's lost higher than they say, probably 400,000. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of bodies laying all over fields. It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen, and it should have never been allowed to happen. Biden should have been able to stop it.
But he didn't. And remember what Biden told Zelensky that first weekend? You need to get out. They're coming for you. You need to get out. And Zelensky stood tall. You can dislike Zelensky you want. We're giving him all this money, which really we're only giving ourselves the money. But the reality is he told him to get out because Biden has been wrong on just about every single foreign affair opportunity forever. You can go back and look at several defense secretaries, including Gates, who said he's never been right. And yes, he was the last person in that room with Obama, and he was also the only no when it came to going and getting Osama. He has been wrong way too much, and he had an opportunity. But much like Obama, they believe they can reason their way out of situations, which you can never do. Not with people that are willing to blow themselves up. It just doesn't happen that way. So much stuff to get to today, plenty of it. Again, we're following the potential custody of a person that is maybe of interest in the shooting of the CEO. And it's some dude at a McDonald's they saw, and they thought, this guy, you know, I find it weird that you would go through all this stuff and you would go to a McDonald's. Like, you would think you would lay super low in Pennsylvania. Maybe you thought you were so off the beaten path that there's just no way anybody's going to recognize you in a McDonald's. But I want to talk about, again, the elevation. We talked about it on Friday, of this guy to some sort of hero. And this standing by it, and many people double and tripling down. And I also think it's interesting to see some of the frustration that even doctors have had, because I've seen a lot of these things posted over the weekend from doctors who've worked with United Healthcare to them not just posting videos, but posting things that United Healthcare have told them about what they're denying and why they're denying it. Some of it seems so absurd, and it's hard to tell what's real and what's not real in the world of cheap fakes. But the reality is it's a tough situation when we talk about healthcare, because nobody wants to lose healthcare, and yet everybody's frustrated with it. And you ask the question, where's the common sense in the way that we do this? It's the best in the world is what we got until it's not. And people are frustrated. Talk about that, a bunch of other stuff. My name's Chad Benson. I'm in for this guy named Matt Murphy, who will be in for Brian Wilson. Be coming up here a little bit later. You're listening to The Matt Murphy Show, featuring me now, Chad Benson, right here on Super Talk 99.7. Omaha Steaks right now delivered to you the best this holiday season. Pound for pound, bite for bite, 100% money back guarantee with the most incredible steaks. The most incredible meat, 5 generations of people who know what they're doing. This is what they do. They live, eat, and breathe steaks, hot dogs, franks, they call them, hamburgers. Oh, delicious. Seafood, you name it, they've got it, pork chops. And right now they've got great deals this holiday season that you will absolutely love, starting as low as $89.99. So instead of giving a gift that nobody really wants, instead of giving a gift that you think is okay, why not give a gift for the whole family to enjoy and maybe yourself as well with Omaha Steaks. That includes amazing things like free shipping on certain things, free burgers, you name it. They've even got surf and turf. If you just want seafood, they've got that. Go to omahasteaks.com, OMAHA steaks.com, 50% off site-wide. And when you use my code Benson, BENSON, they're going to give you another $30 off at checkout. omahasteaks.com, omahasteaks.com. Use code Benson. Minimum purchase may apply.
Big problems in traffic. Let's check that 24 eastbound there in Clarksville. That is closed between Rossview Road and MLK Parkway. That in Sumner County, Tennessee 25 is closed between Franklin Road North and Franklin Road South due to an overturned vehicle there. Got a man being questioned in the CEO murder. Marine veteran Daniel Penny's a free man. Opposition fighters in Syria are releasing prisoners. All this and more at 12:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Former Marine Daniel Penny found not guilty of criminally negligent homicide in the chokehold death of Jordan Neely. Penny was accused of causing Neely's death during a confrontation on a New York City subway train last May. Neely, a homeless man with a history of mental illness, had reportedly frightened passengers before Penny restrained him. Jurors deliberated for 3 days, initially deadlocking on a higher manslaughter charge before reaching their final decision today. Mixed reaction in the courtroom. Some were cheering, but Neely's father cursing and asked to leave.
Why aren't you part of the solution here? You're upset that your kid? Why was your kid that hopped up on drugs? Why did you not know where he was? Why was he not in a facility being helped? There are so many things that went wrong long before it ever got to Daniel Penny, long before it ever got into a situation where he felt to protect himself and the other passengers on his way to school that he had to do something. I don't for an instant think that Daniel Penny wanted to kill that guy. But you've got a guy hopped up on drugs who had warrants out for him, who had been violent before, threatening to kill people, and you're upset? You should be upset at yourself. How did you not get to a point where you tried to do everything in your power for your kid? Well, maybe he did. Well, it didn't work. And the state, you let him out how many times? Knowing he's mentally ill, knowing he is absolutely bonkers is the best way. That's a medical term. Long before it ever got to that point, you let him out. Over and over and over and over again. And then the media holds up Daniel Penny as if he is some guy that is out hunting people, in particular black people with mental illness, to kill them on a subway. There were so many failures before it ever got to that. What you should be doing if you're the state, and what you should be doing if you're Neely's family, is apologizing for ever allowing it to get to that point. There's a guy who was deeply in trouble, a guy who had lost it all, a guy who was mentally disturbed, a guy who had shown violent tendencies, a guy who was hopped up on drugs. And people are like, well, you need to stay the course and try to get justice. Unfortunately, justice was served for you in the form of a not guilty, but you're like, that's not no, that is justice, because now your son's not suffering anymore. Somebody who you didn't really apparently try to do everything you could to get him put away, to get him in a home, to get him somewhere where he couldn't hurt other people as well as himself. But he's an adult. He was an adult that was out of his mind. And the state allowed this to happen over and over again, as many big blue cities do. Man, when I was a kid, you were crazy like that? Somebody show up in a wagon, give you a big, giant, huge coat, let you hug yourself, and away you went.
Butterfly net.
That's right, a butterfly net. They catch you. And then, of course, Reagan did a lot of stuff. They took some stuff away. That was a big deal. They opened up all the mental institutions. Boom. Why? Because there were supposed to be these mental institutions that were supposed to be smaller, and they were supposed to be almost like on the corner, and they were going to help people with all their problems. And instead, none of that ever happened. But we've had chance after chance after chance. New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, San Francisco. We can go on and on. Seattle, Portland. Wackadoos for days, hopped up on drugs, mental illness. And then when somebody gets to the point where they're pushed or they're fearful and they react, and then somebody dies, oh, my God. Oh. And what would have happened if this person would have killed somebody on the train? They would have eventually arrested him. They put him in jail. They would have said he was crazy or hopped up on drugs, and it would have been business as usual. No, this is a horrible situation, but long before it ever got to Daniel Penny, they had failed across the board. Big time. Coming up, we're going to talk about, yes, the CEO with his devil-may-care smile and his handsomeness. He's turned into a saint already, or not. Talk a little bit about that and the way the people are reacting towards it. More on Trump and his visit around the world. A bunch of other good stuff to get to. My name is Chad Benson. I am in for Matt Murphy, who will be in for Brian Wilson, but starting the 2nd of January, this will be me. So you'll be stuck with me. So some of you may be happy, others won't, but you're going to learn to like me. All right? Or else. Bell's coming to your house with no head.
I'm ecstatic, and that's all that counts.
That is all that counts right there. That is Bell. Headless and all. He's growing ahead for me. How about those apples that are apples? It is Chad Benson in for Matt Murphy right here at Super Talk 99.7.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and that traffic situation is just not getting better right now through Clarksville. 24 eastbound is completely shut down for a crash investigation there. Then in Sumner County, we have an overturned vehicle that has forced authorities to shut down Tennessee 25 between Franklin Road and that's going to be Franklin Road North and Franklin Road South. They're in Cottontown. in Sumner County. Got the full forecast in 5 minutes. A man in Altoona, Pennsylvania, is being questioned in connection with the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in New York City. Police say they found a gun similar to the one used on Thompson and writings critical of the insurance industry. This man spotted in a McDonald's there. Marine veteran Daniel Penny is free, acquitted of any criminal wrongdoing in the death of Jordan Neely, whom Penny put in a chokehold as Neely was ranting about people dying and killing someone, terrifying a crowded subway train in 2023. The opposition fighters who forced Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad to flee to Russia are now freeing thousands of people from a network of prisons where reports say they were tortured, hanged, and denied food, water, and medicine under Assad. Meanwhile, Stephen Bucci, visiting fellow at Heritage Foundation who focuses on military special operations, tells WTN's Dan Mandis.
It's shown that even though Russia likes Assad, is now giving him shelter, they were no longer able to provide adequate support to him to keep him in power because of everything that they are using up and committing in Ukraine.
And here in Nashville, Metro Police say they used surveillance video to arrest a man charged in a rash of business burglaries overnight. They say 24-year-old Michael Ezell broke into 6 businesses within an hour, starting at 2:30 this morning. When they caught him, they say he had $2,000 in cash and keys to each of the businesses. He works for the company that owns them. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
So we're going to talk about the lunacy. Of the love of the smiley face guy, the killer. Ken, what is the latest on a guy had writings in a bag and he had a gun similar to it?
Yeah. The latest is the Associated Press is reporting that police have found writings they say are critical of the insurance industry on the man that they are questioning in the shooting death of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. So, yeah, someone saw this guy in a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Police get there. They confront the man who they say apparently had a weapon on him similar to the one that was used on Brian Thompson. And now the Associated Press has come out with that they apparently say they have writings.
Okay, so it's not just there's a guy similar they're questioning. This seems to get a little deeper than that right now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this same guy that they're questioning apparently had these writings on his person, as a police officer would say, on his person.
On his person. There we go.
Yes.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, he keep us abreast of situation. Oh, he said abreast of situation. How dare I? So the love of him this weekend, though. So think about this. A week ago, nobody knew who this guy was, and still nobody does. Then he does what he does, which is commits a heinous act of killing a man who is a father, husband, CEO of a major corporation, the largest corporation when it comes to healthcare in America. And by then, the media jumps on it. And, of course, even Saturday Night Live makes fun of the people and the media who are fawning on this guy.
And it really says something about America that a guy was murdered in cold blood, and the two main reactions were, yeah, well, healthcare stinks. And also, girl, that shooter hot.
Police say that they were able to get the smiling picture of the suspect after the man apparently was caught on camera at a local hostel flirting with a female employee whose name has been reported as Lucky S. Betcha Live.
Which is... you guys, it has been that crazy. If you go on the internet, Chris played it earlier. You had the lookalike contest of the guy this weekend. Those same people that are out there, whining and moaning about Palestine and all of that stuff are out there doing this, craziness. But this is one of those things. There has always been a love of certain criminals. I mean, like we talked about the Boston bomber on the cover of Rolling Stone, put a thirst trap out there. Same thing with this guy. But the media has went all in some weird way because they find this story, it's fascinating. And let me tell you something. There's a conversation 100% to be had about healthcare, how we make it better, how we streamline it, how we do it where we have more competition, how we make it so we have affordability. I will tell you, I told you guys last week, my payment for my health insurance, I could buy a home in the value of about $500,000 for me and the kids. Can we all agree it's a little insane? It's just like, that's some money right there. On top of that, getting in to see a doctor, because once you pay it, doesn't mean you're going to get in and see a doctor. What did I have to do? Well, my wife and I decided we were going to do something else. So I have a guy, I'm going to try to get him to come on Friday. He's a concierge doctor. What that is he doesn't deal at all with health insurance. You pay him a flat rate. And by the way, it's nothing for us. It was virtually nothing. It's like $150 a month. I have access to him 24/7. I have his home phone. I have his cell phone. Nobody has a home phone. And some of you might, but nobody else really has a home phone anymore. I can text him whenever I want, whatever I need. When I go over there and see him, there is no rushing me in and out, or my family. My wife and I will sit there sometimes when we go in and see him, and he's back in Arizona. I'd sit there with him for an hour, just talking about all kinds of stuff. There wasn't this. And if we need stuff, we have the insurance. And the insurance is chaos. In fact, my insurance is so crazy. If we want a prescription, it is cheaper for me to pay cash because the out-of-pocket is so ridiculous. So there's absolutely an opportunity to talk about this. But they've turned him into a hero. And he's not a hero. He's not. He killed somebody. And in his mind, maybe he feels justified that there's millions and millions of Americans. And trust me, everybody who has dealt with the insurance company in some way, shape, or form has had some frustration, and some through the roof. And you know it and I know it. Being denied over and over again, being denied in every way, shape, or form, being denied. It's like, why do I pay for something if I can't use it? But when you become a CEO of a company like that, your customer base is no longer the patients. It's no longer the people that the doctors will see next. Your customers now, who you have to keep happy, are the board and the shareholders. And how do you do that? Thin it out as much as possible, deny as much as possible, and try to give yourself the most upside as you can with your premiums. That's how you do it. And it sucks. It does. Because there is better ways, I think, of doing things. But it's tough out there. And many of you, even some of you last week, thought, oh, you were saying good stuff about socialized medicine. I said, no, it has its place. Because I've lived in both. I prefer ours, but to say it's perfect would be a lie. But to celebrate a guy that cold-bloodedly killed somebody with a very nonchalant attitude is crazy. But there are plenty of people out there who are like, yep, this guy got what he got, and nobody cares about it.
At this point, everyone has heard about the assassination of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. That in itself is unprecedented. What is equally unprecedented is how much people don't care. I have yet to see anyone online posting saying, we got to find this guy, we got to get him off the street. I have, however, seen people making an argument, doing the hear me out thing, women talking about how attractive he is, people calling him Robin Hood, people quite literally making fan art, and I don't think it's that difficult to figure out why.
No, because people are frustrated. They are. And it's funny, a lot of the young are frustrated when they've got nothing to be frustrated. They're living off their mom and dad's insurance for the most part. But it is a frustrating thing. But to celebrate somebody like this, it is twisted. And the Robin Hood thing is ridiculous, right? Because Robin Hood stole from the rich and gave to the poor. This guy didn't steal anything to give to anybody. He exacted revenge, this is a lot to do with class. Because whenever I hear people talk about him, this is what I hear. He's a white male who makes a lot of money, therefore he is evil. Like, that is evil. A white male that makes a lot of money is evil, so he got what he got.
I don't think there's a single person in this country who hasn't themselves or had someone very, very near and dear to them suffer from the absolutely abysmal thing that is privatized healthcare in this country. People every day are denied for the most ridiculous reasons. Sometimes, even though they should be given care, just denied to deny them in the hopes that they will die before they can actually get the services that they have paid for.
I saw doctors this week post stuff. I saw one that was, at first I didn't think it was real, and I went and looked in several places, and it was a doctor who was upset because they denied a kid who was going through chemo certain medicine. And his reply was, "Dear butthead," at the insurance company, which I thought was hilarious. But you remember, you're not a human being to them. You're not. You know what you are? You're a number in a code book. That's what you are. You're a number in a code book. They look it up, and boom, they go, deny, and then go from there.
I'm not saying he should have done it. I'm just saying I understand. I can certainly understand why someone could be driven to do something like that, but also I can't condone it because it doesn't accomplish anything. It doesn't address the problem that is the American healthcare system and how it is privatized for profit. Privatized healthcare is a lot like the Hydra, and to me, killing that CEO is a lot like cutting one of their heads off. It does nothing. But it's a big ask if you want people to feel sorry for a person who directly or indirectly contributed to the death of so many in the name of lining the pockets of shareholders.
And that's what happens when you have privatized healthcare. You get the good with the bad. What's the good? Well, when there's money inside of healthcare, people will throw money in there for all sorts of reasons. They don't want all their patients to die. That's ridiculous. But you are a margin to them. But when there's money in privatized healthcare, you get amazing things that save lives. And it's a weird world that privatized healthcare wants to save lives, but at the same time will do all they can to cut the margins as thin as possible when it comes to your life. By the way, we have a name. His name is Luigi Mangione, I think. He's been ID'd as the person of interest. Luigi. I can't hear you, Bill. What are you saying? Push the right buttons. He's been gone a week. A week.
There we go.
There we go.
Chuck's brother, right?
Chuck. That's Chuck Mangione for everybody. He has been named a person of interest in Altoona. He was taken into custody. He had apparently a gun on him similar to that what was used supposedly in the shooting, and which they're saying may be something that they use to kill animals when it comes to livestock for feeding, as we know. And he had writings on him, but his name is Luigi Mangione. And I may be getting that wrong, which is possible because for those of you guys who don't know, I suck at names. I'm horrible at names. I want to let you guys know that. But that is a person of interest that they have taken into custody in the shooting. And like I said, this is as much about class war as it is anything else. It absolutely is as much about class war. And I tell this, you would have to, if you wanted to go privatize healthcare, I mean public healthcare in this country, you'd have to outlaw privatize healthcare. That's what the left would want you to do. And the reason is simple, because the rich, the well-to-do would find a way around it. They did that for years in Britain, and then finally people started going concierge, kind of like what I did, where you just pay somebody to go see a general practitioner. You have your insurance, but just in case something bad happened, that way you'd have a chance to go and see somebody. But frustration. And even last week, some of you angry because you think, oh, you like, I don't like the thought of the government being involved. See, the VA can be a nightmare. That being said, if you continue to do what you're going to do, which is, quite frankly, screw the American people in such a way that they're frustrated, eventually the system will break. And when it does, then what option do you have? Once again, we have a person of interest. Luigi Mangione is 16. He's 26 years old, identified as a person of interest, taken into custody in Altoona, the beautiful town of Altoona. Of all the tunas, Al is my favorite of the tunas. A lot of stuff to get to coming up. More on this, obviously. More on Trump this weekend on Meet the Press with Kristen Welker. Bunch of other things. Yes, Syria is crazy as well. My name's Chad Benson. I'm in for Matt Murphy. This is the Matt Murphy Show. Super Talk 99.7. Raycon, best earbuds around. I wear mine every single day, and they're incredible. So what do you get with these everyday earbuds? Well, first of all, the fit, second to none. They're just incredible. The sound quality, through the roof. A price that will not break the bank. And I'm telling you guys this, it's got fast charging, but it's got noise cancellation. Active noise cancellation at a price like this, you're just never going to get. 30-day happiness guarantee, 8 hours of talk time, 32 hours of battery life, weather and sweat resistant, which is great as well. And with that fit, man, the comfort level, you can wear these things I wear mine every day, all the time when I'm working out of my home studio because I can. It's got multi-connectivity as well, so I can have it on my phone and my computer at the same time without getting all wackadood. It is just awesome. Premium audio at a price that won't break the bank. They make great Christmas presents. They start well under $100. Get yours now. Go to buyraycon.com/Chad. That's buyraycon.com/Chad. Buyraycon.com/Chad.
All right, drivers, we're still dealing with about an hour's drive if you're trying to get to Nashville from Clarksville because of that crash. 24 eastbound is closed there in Clarksville for that crash. Still got the overturned vehicle in Sumner County. Tennessee 25 closed between Franklin Road North, Franklin Road South. Got the very latest on this person of interest being questioned in the CEO murder update coming up at 1 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
One of the pairs of ruby slippers worn by Judy Garland in The Wizard of Oz. This pair, stolen from a Minnesota museum and recovered in an FBI sting, has sold at a Dallas auction for $28 million.
Oh, Auntie M, there's no place like home.
Online bidding, which opened last month, stood at just over $1.5 million before live bidding began late Saturday afternoon. Heritage Auctions says the previous record for a piece of entertainment memorabilia was $5.5 million for the white dress Marilyn Monroe wore atop a windy subway grate.
So right now some cartel leaders got the ruby slippers now.
How do you pay more for the slippers than you do the dress? That makes no sense to me.
Well, it was back then. I think if you put the dress up for sale today, I think you might pay more. But
I would say a lot more if those slippers are getting $28 million.
Well, again, it's who's buying that? Like, hey, dude, you want to come over to my house? What is that? Oh, those are the ruby slippers from the Wizard of Oz. Like, there's no Monets. You don't have anything like that. Again, it's all about laundering money.
Well, you don't know that. There could be some Monets in there.
Could be. Well, yeah. Well, again, it's about laundering money.
Yeah,
those
this
are
is my
closet.
Monet. This is my ruby slippers. This is my Marilyn Monroe dress, which I wear regularly.
All the time. And the slippers, because there's no place like home. Auntie M, I'm coming, Auntie M. Again, a 26-year-old, Luigi Mangione, I think his name is. I might have screwed that up. If I am, I'm sorry. He has been taken into custody. He had garb on that was similar to the shooter of the CEO, Brian Thompson, from United Healthcare. He had writings on his person, as Ken likes to point out, on his person. And he also apparently had a gun that matched the gun that was used in the killing of the CEO last week. He was taken into custody in Altoona. So far, what we know is he went to an Ivy League school. So it's good to know that he's educated and apparently angry, like all Ivy League kids seem to be, educated and angry. So we'll find out more. But they also said he had a fake New Jersey ID on him. Because if you're going to have a New Jersey ID, it better be fake. I'm telling you guys that right now. My name is Chad Benson. I am in for Matt Murphy, who will be in for Brian Wilson. Again, starting the 2nd of January, in the year of the Lord 2025. I'll be in from noon till 3. Matt will then take his show from 3 till 7. So deal with it, kids. It is Chad Benson in for Matt Murphy. This is Super Talk 99.7.
One o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 5 minutes. CEO murder update. Police have identified the man being questioned in connection to the crime as 26-year-old Luigi Mangione. Someone at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania this morning called police to report a person there matching that description. Police moved in. Here's Rena Roy.
Sources tell us that this person in Pennsylvania had a fake New Jersey driver's license that actually matches the one the suspect used to check into a Manhattan hostel before the shooting. He has a gun that was similar to the one used in the shooting, and he was traveling through Altoona on a Greyhound bus. So just a lot of overlap here.
Now, police say Mangione had writings that are critical of the insurance industry. Marine veteran Daniel Penny is a free man, acquitted this morning of all criminal wrongdoing in the death of a man on a subway train last year. Here's Dave Packer.
Daniel Penny claimed he choked Jordan Neely out of self-defense, acquitted on a negligent homicide charge after a deadlocked jury led to the more serious manslaughter charge being dropped. Neely family attorney Dante Mills says the fight will go on in civil court.
The family's hurt. I promised this family that we would get justice. We're still going to do that. We're going to move forward. with our suit.
The city's medical examiner concluding Penny's chokehold killed Neely. The defense argued Neely died from a genetic condition and the synthetic marijuana found in his system.
Here in Nashville, a man is in custody after police say he broke into and burglarized 6 businesses within an hour overnight, starting at 2:30 this morning. They say 25-year-old Michael Izell had $2,000 cash and keys to each one of the businesses when they caught him. Police say Izell works for the company that owns the businesses, has been working there since June. They are Metro Wine and Spirits on Church Street, Downtown Nashville Wine and Spirits on 2nd Avenue, Sobro Wine and Spirits on 3rd Avenue, Downtown Nashville Market on 2nd, Nashville Wine and Spirits on 4th, and Downtown Fresh Market on 4th. Police say they were able to identify Izell after reviewing surveillance camera footage from 4th and Church. TikTok is appealing a court's decision that would have allowed a ban on the popular app to move forward. Here's Mike Dubusky.
TikTok now wants the Supreme Court to decide its future in the United States. Last week, a 3-judge panel ruled in favor of a law that would ban TikTok if the Chinese-owned app doesn't sell itself to an American buyer. The company filed an emergency injunction to pause the legislation from going into effect, saying small businesses and creators on the platform could suffer economic consequences if the app disappears.
Lawmakers have raised questions, or rather concerns, the Chinese government could use TikTok to leverage propaganda or spy on American users. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Gotcha, maybe. So they've arrested a man in connection with the shooting of the CEO. And if you were going to go down, do it in Altoona. So 26-year-old Luigi Mangione was taken into custody. He is a former Ivy Leaguer who has been described as, are you guys ready for this? Anti-capitalist. No. Mm-hmm. Climate change. Nut job. I put the nut job in there. According to law enforcement, citing sources on the internet. No, looking at all of his stuff on the internet. He has a bunch of quotes from the likes of Socrates to Bruce Lee to, yes, the Unabomber as well. So he imagined a society that subjects people to conditions that make them terribly unhappy, then gives them the drugs to take away their unhappiness. That's one of the things he had from Kaczynski. Some of the other stuff he had up there. Science fiction is already happening to some extent in our own society. Instead of removing the conditions that make people depressed, modern society gives them antidepressant drugs. And in fact, antidepressants are a means of modifying an individual's internal state in such a way that enables him to tolerate social conditions that would be otherwise intolerable. He was valedictorian in 2016 at a high school called the Gilman School in Baltimore. Played soccer, according to online sites. By the way, it's an all-boys school. Tuition, $40,000 a year. He wanted to have a degree. He was for AI, focused on the areas of computer science and cognitive science. So there'll be more out about him, but they took him in custody earlier today in Altoona.
Earlier this morning in Altoona, Pennsylvania, members of the Altoona Police Department arrested Luigi Mangione, a 26-year-old male, on firearms charges. At this time, he is believed to be our person of interest in the brazen targeted murder of Brian Thompson, CEO of United Healthcare, last Wednesday in Midtown Manhattan.
So he is, it's interesting. He posted a Wall Street Journal article on Facebook in 2019 titled Obstacle to Deficit Cutting, a Nation of Entitlements. And he also did some other stuff that seemed like just normal kids would do, including stuff at the University of Penn for video games and things of that nature. So this is very interesting, to say the least. The latest. So this was not a guy who was, if this is indeed the person, somebody who was a father or husband who had lost somebody. This seemed to be an anti-capitalist nut job. Not a shocker. Like, it was one of those, right? So it wasn't a hitman. But I'll tell you what, for all the stuff, he definitely thought this thing through to a certain extent. So he had a fake.
You think he'll get murder one?
It's possible. I don't even know what they do in New York. It's probably not death because it's New York. So it's probably life in prison without parole. Although Bragg may release him on his own recognizance.
That, or they give you a hotel room and a debit card with money on it.
That's only if you would have crossed here illegally.
My bad.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So in custody he went. We'll find out what happens. Meanwhile, around the globe, other things are happening. Case in point, Syria has collapsed. It is a failed nation state at this moment in time with a chance to turn into hell at any given moment. It already was. So Syria was run by the Assad family, who, by the way, was an optometrist. He's a British-born optometrist. Essentially, he is a guy that is now hiding with his family. Well, hiding as much as you can in Moscow. He's probably not terrified that he's going to be extradited because Putin's not going to allow that to happen. But he escaped with $2 billion. He ruled his family for 50 years. They ruled that company, and with brutality, they ruled that nation. His father and then him. And up until a few weeks ago, they had about 60% of the nation. But then what happened is forces joined together. Forces that you would think would never be anywhere near each other. You had Kurds and ISIS Al-Qaeda offshoots. You had HTS, which was a group that is put together, kind of led by this guy who is the head of the rebels, who's been speaking everywhere as kind of the guy that he wants to bring the country together. You had groups that were opposing him across the board that were Syrian-based, not kind of groups that we would quietly support, that were all about as much pro-Arab Spring as you can make them. Again, you're dealing with countries that are fractured, and these countries that are so fractured where, depending on what area you're in, it's, this is a safe zone, this over here, not so much. You also had Turkey involved. You had the Kurds involved, who are fighting with Turkey, but also want nothing to do with Assad and have been chemical weaponed by him. And then you had Israel involved last night as well. The new guy that wants to lead it, supposedly a moderate.
HTS is a U.S. designated terrorist organization, and it'll be seen whether it is true that they are moderated their stance as we go into this transition and the Syrian people choose a government, hopefully, that represents all the Syrian people. But this is very problematic when it comes to diplomacy, dealing with the U.S. designated terrorist organization.
Yeah, so the rebel leader's name is Abu Muhammad al-Jilani. And Jilani used to be Al-Qaeda. Then he got disillusioned because Al-Qaeda just wasn't cutting. Then he went over and he was part of ISIS. And he thought, I don't want to be part of this at all. Now he supposedly has moderated himself. Now, we have a $10 million bounty on his head. And U.S. officials are trying to figure out what to do with that. Because the things he's saying sound good. But the reality is, it doesn't matter if he rules with a soft hand and love. You have too many groups who hate each other that want a piece of this. It's got to fall, and then there has to be a fight, and then we'll see what happens. Now, us, well, we fired off a bunch last night because while all this is going on, the reality is ISIS is involved in this. And when ISIS gets involved, we have to make sure that we knock that down fast.
When it comes to the U.S. strikes, they were significant, over 70 strikes. That was basically sending a message to ISIS that don't try to take advantage of this situation. We have 900 troops out there. We're working hand in glove with our SDF partners, and the mission is to ensure that ISIS does not return.
I don't know if you can do that or not, because, again, you've got to pay attention in these areas. These groups, they don't really disappear the way that people think because they're not wearing uniforms. This isn't their job. Their job is whatever it is that week. It's the same thing with Taliban. Half of Taliban are just farmers. When it's time to harvest and do their things, they're gone. When they're time to come down and fight or do whatever, that's what they do. So it's tough to say who's part of the jihadi hate movement and who's not. But one thing's for sure, we quieted him down. Trump, right? Put the boot on him. Quick, which is what needed to be done. So now he's got to walk into this mess, along with what's going on in Ukraine, which I think is going to get solved really quick. I think that's going to be solved in a very fast way because this right here sends a signal on how weak Putin is. He lost a port that was needed. Crimea is a port that he can get to that he doesn't have to break a bunch of ice. And that was important. This was a warm water port that he absolutely needed. He's lost that now. He has lost a lot of things. Iran has lost a lot of things. And their biggest thing they're losing is influence. He couldn't keep Assad in power because he doesn't have the strength. Iran couldn't do any more. With what was happening with Hezbollah, what's happening with Hamas, and what's happening with the Houthis, there was nothing that they could do. They are really just kind of done. And so now you've got all of these groups that are going to battle it out. And it's going to be a hornet's nest. I mean, I would love to think, somebody's going to come together. It's going to be great, guys. We're all going to be pals. We're going to do stuff together. We're going to play parcheesi, whatever it is. I don't know. It's going to be awesome. We're going to run around, be good friends, right? With everybody. We're all going to bring everybody together. But it's not, because Turkey now has an unstable border. Lebanon's got an unstable border. Jordan's got an unstable border. A portion of Israel's got even more unstable border. They took some of that back yesterday. like a no buffer zone. So it's instability. And I said earlier, it's like Haiti. Haiti is a failed nation state run by warlords and gangs. This is what this is going to be for a while. And does it have the potential to see a rise in jihad? Oh, absolutely. I think that's totally going to happen. Now, the question is, where does it go from here? I think the first place it goes is to places like Turkey and countries in and around there before it lands on our shores. God willing, that doesn't happen. But the reality is, in today's world, of instability and nobody being checked the way they should be, that's what you get. And we saw Assad eventually failing. I don't think anybody thought it was going to be this fast. And now Trump has to walk into that, which is going to be a hornet's nest. And you can't allow it to fester. I know everybody wants to stay out of it. You can't. We've got troops over there already, and you can't allow ISIS to rise again because they will. And you've got Israel already fighting way too many fronts at this moment in time. Speaking of Trump, this weekend, he went to Notre Dame, met with many of the world leaders, smiles on them. Did you see that little look that old Jill Biden gave him? She's like, what's going on? How you doing? She likes power. That's all I'm saying. She likes power. But sat down with Zelensky. They're going to get something done. It's going to happen. This loss here for Assad was as much about Russia being a paper tiger. But he's going to end up having to give up a lot more land than I think he thought he was going to for the assurance of safety that he is going to get from the West. But then he went on Meet the Press. And we're going to get into a lot of the stuff on Meet the Press because I found some of it very fascinating. They came after him, the usual stuff. They're going to ask gotcha questions. What about this? What about that? But I thought he was as spot on as you could be. He was focused. And one of the things that I always talk about with Trump is a consummate entertainer. It's always about entertaining. But he's a chameleon. If I'm in a room full of 1,000 people, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to be whatever they need me to be. So if they want me to be more raucous and they want me to be more MAGA, I'll do it. If I'm sitting down one-on-one, like with Joe Rogan and other people, I'm going to be much more statesmanlike. And that's so much the way that Trump handles a lot of things. And I think his interview with Kristen Welker was great, talking about immigration, a bunch of other stuff. We're going to touch on all of that, a bunch of other stuff to get today. I'm Chad Benson. I'm in for Matt Murphy, who will be in later for Brian Wilson. And, of course, starting the 2nd of January, it'll be me from noon to 3, Brian from 3 till 7, right here.
No, Brian will be gone.
No, Brian will be gone. That's right. He's going back out on the Beach Boys. It's about time. It'll be Matt. So many people. They're moving parts. You weren't here last week, Bell. You chose not to join us. And our super
I had really important things to take care of.
He had nothing. I asked him, how's your vacation? It sucked. Come on, Eeyore. Settle down. It's got to be better than that. You had a lot of fun. You hung out with me on Thursday night. That was fun. So much fun.
Actually, I did get to hang out with you and Matt both, so that was...
See, it's not all bad. He thinks everything's bad here, but as you and I both pointed out, man, we're not crushing rocks in the hot sun. So that, or the cold weather, by the way.
You don't know what they have me do after the show.
I don't. You're absolutely right about that. But maybe we'll find out. That's Bell. I'm Chad. This is Super Talk 99.7. All right, guys, Omaha Steaks, the holiday season, you could give a tie to somebody. Like, oh, that's nice. All right, you can give them a pair of socks or whatever like that. Or you can give Omaha Steaks. Omaha Steaks, the best steaks around, period. 100% unconditional money back guarantee, bite for bite. Incredible. You want surf and turf? They have it. You want amazing fillets? They have it. You want just burgers? They have it. Just Franks? They have it. If you want all kinds of things just put together, they've got it. They've got gift package starting low as $89.99. Now, here's a great thing. It's 50% off site-wide. So you go to omahasteaks.com and use my code Benson. They're going to give you an extra $30 off right there on top of that, which is awesome. You can order now, still in time to get there for Christmas and the holiday season. They are incredible. We swear, but I eat my Omaha steaks. The minute they get there, they're gone. My kids love the hot dogs, the Franks. I call them the hot dogs, the Franks. They love them. They love the desserts as well. My wife and I love the fillets. I love the pork chops, my favorite thing. You get what's right for you to give this holiday season, and maybe you'll get a little bit back as well because they'll be like, hey, you want to come over for barbecue? That is a win-win. Go to omahasteaks.com right now, OMAHA steaks.com. Use my code Benson, and you save yourself $30 off when you check out. That includes it's already being 50% off site-wide. omahasteaks.com. Use code Benson. Minimum purchase may apply.
All right, checking our traffic situation that has not been ideal since this morning in Clarksville. 24 eastbound is getting better. Still closed for a crash investigation, but it looks like they may be getting ready to wrap that up. And we still have Tennessee 25 closed between Franklin Road and Franklin Road South. That's Franklin Road North and Franklin Road South there in Cottontown, Sumner County. And United Healthcare CEO murder update. They now have identified that person of interest. We'll tell you what they found on him coming up at 1:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Let me ask you, sir, as you think about your inauguration, I remember your first inaugural address, you talked about American carnage. Have you thought about your message for your second inaugural address?
I have.
Can you give us a preview?
We're going to have a message that will make you happy, unity. It's going to be a message of unity. And again, I think success brings unity. And I've experienced that. I've experienced it in my first term, as I said. We're going to be talking about unity. We're going to be talking about success, making our country safe, keeping people that shouldn't be in our country out. We have to do that. I know it doesn't sound nice, but we have to do that. But basically, it's going to be about bringing our country together.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to happen. I think we're too polarized and fractured. But can Trump get a majority of Americans, 65% of people, on that path? Of course. And the winning side of it is absolutely. Winning cures everything. That, like sports, right? All you have to say is winning cures everything. No matter how bad things are in the locker room, if you're winning, it stays in the locker room. Everybody's got a smile on their face. When things go sideways, that's when stuff gets out. And unity, it is a hard thing to do, especially when you've got a younger group of people, in particular women, who want no part of what Trump has to offer. They're sterilizing themselves because they're insane. They're shaving their heads because they're insane. That is not something a healthy-minded individual would do. I'm going to show you. I'm going to shave my head. Oh, okay, why? I'm going to go get sterilized. Why? Well, because what if? What if what? So you're never going to get those people. Never going to get those people. But for those people that are Democrats, they lean a little left, things start going really well, right? They see that inflation starts to come down, that immigration they got a handle on immigration. You watch what happens. People will change their tune. But you can only do so much because we've always kind of been somewhat of a fractured nation. The difference is we're fractured, but we move on. Now with social media, we don't have to worry about any of that, right? We don't ever have to move on. We can fight all we want. But the unity thing, I mean, it sounds good. No, just go out and do the thing you have to do and win, and then you don't have to worry about anything else. Because either people are going to come along or not. But eventually what happens, even if they don't come along in that way, they get bored. They get bored because it's winning. They get bored because things are happening good. They get bored because, well, we have nothing to gripe about. I have nothing to whine about. And there's nothing I could do, say, that's going to get us to change anything because he's winning, so we move on. And I thought that's perfect. And like I said, the chameleon-like way that he does things when he's in front of a crowd is, he'll go where the crowd wants him to go. More MAGA, he'll be more MAGA. More funny, he'll be more funny. And one-on-one, very much a statesman. And the fact that he gave it to Meet the Press, the big issue with Meet the Press is afterwards, and I was watching several shows afterwards, and I was sitting there going, Mark Halperin said, my issue was you've got one guy that was not even pro-Trump, Republican, not a fan of Trump. And that was the closest supporter you got to Trump. And then you had three people who absolutely hated Trump. Jen Psaki was on there, a couple other reporters. It's not the way you do things. And this, again, is why the media is failing. And that's old establishment, do things the old way media. That's why you're failing. Should have brought on Lonely Scott Jennings. That guy's the best. Lonely Scott. Lonely Scott. We'll talk a little bit more about his interview, immigration, how he's going to tackle that, as well as the latest on the shooter. The alleged shooter has been taken into custody. Luigi Mangione, 26-year-old in Altoona. More is coming out about him. Talk a bit about that, as well as Daniel Penny was acquitted for the chokehold death of Mr. Neely on the subway. People are upset. There's protesters out there. People are saying, now we need vigilantes. It is. It feels like you're trying to manufacture something, and it's hard to do in a city that has seen crime rocket through the roof and the police not do a lot about it. Talk about that, bunch of other things to get to. My name's Chad Benson. I'm in for Matt Murphy. This is Super Talk 99.7.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories and good news, drivers. Looks like they have just cleared that crash that had been blocking 24 eastbound in Clarksville. Still dealing with the one in Sumner County, though, where Tennessee 25 is closed between Franklin Road North and Franklin Road South due to an overturned vehicle. Got the full forecast in 5 minutes. United Healthcare CEO murder update. This is New York City Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch.
Earlier this morning in Altoona, Pennsylvania, members of the Altoona Police Department arrested Luigi Mangione, a 26-year-old male, on firearms charges. At this time, he is believed to be our person of interest in the brazen targeted murder of Brian Thompson, CEO of United Healthcare, last Wednesday in Midtown Manhattan.
Mangione allegedly had a weapon similar to the one used in Thompson's murder, also writings critical of the insurance industry. Marine veteran Daniel Penny is a free man, acquitted of all criminal wrongdoing in the chokehold death of Jordan Neely, a homeless man who was ranting about dying and killing people on a crowded New York City subway train last year. Neely's father, Andre, spoke outside the courtroom after the verdict this morning.
I miss my son. My son didn't have to go through this. I didn't have to go through this either. It hurts.
Daniel Penny claimed self-defense and more than 40 witnesses were called. Some who testified nearly terrified them that day. And here in Nashville, Metro Police say they found the suspect vehicle from a deadly shooting yesterday on the Silman Evans Bridge. 20-year-old D'Angelo Black was killed when struck by a bullet fired from a gun by someone in a car that followed the one Black was in from a confrontation at a gas station. The driver of the Saturn Eon sedan Black was in was able to flag down a traffic cop for help, but Black died at the hospital. The suspect vehicle found later unoccupied at an apartment complex in North Nashville. And News 2 says the Morgan Wallen alleged chair-throwing case is going to be bound over to the grand jury. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
So Trump, over the weekend, went to France to see the opening of the Notre Dame. Was there with all the folks, right? Press and flesh. Also did an interview on Meet the Press with Kristen Welker. Talked about a lot of different things. One of the big things being immigration, which is front and center. Outside of the fact they said, look, the reason I'm here, even more than immigration, is groceries. But immigration is definitely a big deal. And groceries are something that, look, there's going to be tariffs. There's going to be some issues. For those of you out there who think there's not going to be issues, you're fooling yourself when it comes to some of these tariffs, if and when they go into place the way that he says it is, because it is a long haul in some situations. It is going to be uncomfortable, and it will get passed on to us. You can say it's not going to, but it is. But when it comes to immigration, that's something he can do and that we could see immediately. But it's always about what? Deportations. I saw a meme my buddy sent me this weekend. And here, I'll try it on Bell to see if he gets it. Okay, ready? Trump is going to deport every single person here back to where they came from and 2 puppies. Okay? So he's going to deport everybody that came here and 2 puppies.
All right, now I suddenly have an issue with this.
Which is?
We don't deport puppies.
See? Nobody cares about people that are here illegally. And that's kind of the thing. Why 2 puppies?
In fact, I think you may have just set up a serious feud between you and Matt because you're claiming we need to deport puppies. And he's a big dog guy.
But the whole thing is if you say that to the media, they would go, why 2 puppies? And they would say, see, you don't care about illegals. Because so much of it is a game. Now, immigration is a hot mess and it's broken. He's got to address it along with Tom Homan, who says, look, we're already getting this thing going right now. And we've talked about it here a couple weeks ago. Self-deportation is happening. The Filipino consulate in Los Angeles has been overrun with people who want to get home before they're caught and sent back because that means that they can't come back or at least try to come back for 10 years. So you're starting to see a lot of that.
You raised the point that the logistics are complicated. You said
Sure
it yourself.
they are,
You would
but everything's
need 24,
complicated.
yeah, you mean you need 24 times more ICE detention capacity just to deport 1 million people per year, not to mention more agents, more judges, more planes. Is it realistic to deport everyone who's
You have
here
no
illegally?
choice. First of all, they're costing us a fortune. But we're starting with the criminals, and we got to do it. And then we're starting with others, and we're going to see how it goes.
Who are the others?
Others are other people outside of criminals.
So what does that mean? People that have gone through the system, right? The system that we hear about all the time from the people, especially on the left. Oh, my God, they have to go through the system. So they go through the system. They come into the country, they apply for asylum, they're allowed into the country. They're paroled into the country. They go through. They wait 3, 4, 5, 7 years. Who knows how long they wait before they finally see a judge. They go in front of a judge to plead their asylum case. They lose. Then they appeal. Then they come back. They lose again. Then they appeal. Then they're given their final orders, and they still haven't left. That's number 2 that must go. Because what's the use of even having a court system if we're not going to abide by it?
Is it your plan to deport everyone who is here illegally over the next 4 years?
Well, I think you have to do it. It's a very tough thing to do, but you have to have, you have rules, regulations, laws. They came in illegally. The people that have been treated very unfairly are the people that have been online for 10 years to come into the country. And we're going to make it very easy for people to come in terms of they have to pass the test. They have to be able to tell you what the Statue of Liberty is. They have to tell you a little bit about our country. They have to love our country. They can't come out of prisons. We don't want people that are in for murder.
And I remind everybody, if you're here on an asylum case, meaning you've gone to a port of entry, you've not crossed through a area where there is no port of entry, you've never surrendered, you're what they call a got-away, you're gone. You've committed a crime here, you're gone. Unless it's murder or rape or something like that, where sending you back to once you came will only probably get you freed to try to come back here again. I don't think we can have that. But if you've come to a port of entry, you've surrendered, and now you're here on an asylum case, you're not here illegally. As much as we would like to say it, that's where you have to fix the system. And that is going to take a while. That is not an overnight thing. And I say this again and again. Trump has 16 to 18 months to get these things right. First and foremost, stem the tide. Right? If your ship is filling up with water, you don't try to bail out before you fix the hole in the ship. You do that first, then bail it out. And that's the first thing, the border. Remain in Mexico, put it back in place. Then you have to go to Congress because they're the ones who craft the laws. Remember, we got 3 co-equal branches of government. Executive, legislative, judicial. They've got to craft a law and put something in place that's bipartisan because that'll make everybody feel good, but that is going to give people the opportunity to see out their asylum opportunities, hold them accountable if they don't leave, and at the same time stop people from abusing the system. So I think a lot of people think that even if you're here on asylum, they're going to throw you out. That's not the way it works. They're here legally. As frustrated as some people may be in that, that's the reality of the situation. The law is there. And then the other thing, he wants to go after birthright citizenship, which is going to be a lot tougher. It's going to be way tougher than people realize. I think he thinks that he's going to just do it, and that'll be that. That's going to be a tough thing. You're talking about something that's in the Constitution. How does that even work? How are you going to get... We can't get our Congress together to agree on whether or not Snickers or Reese's Peanut Butter Cups are good to eat. How are we going to... And by that, I don't mean healthy. I mean just taste nice. How are we going to do this? But these are aspirational. You've got to do that. And like I said, I think he did a hell of a job this weekend. We'll see what happens. I think he's going to do gangbusters on the border. I think it's going to be interesting when it comes to tariffs and inflation. We'll get to that next hour. But there's no doubt that the number one thing that he can handle, even before he gets in there, as much as he can handle what's going on in Ukraine, is going to be the border. And Tom Homan's already come out and said that this is what this is going to be, and this is how we're going to do it. And he also said, look, DACA, it's funny, being in Arizona for as long as I was, I worked with a lot of people who were DACA kids. Some of them who came here, snuck into the country, and what they went through in their life to even get here as kids was crazy. And there is a lot of hope amongst the DACA kids that are here now that Trump will get something done. There was a lot of hope on the first time that Trump would get something done. And you remember what happened? There seemed to be some sort of deal in place where then both sides' people pushed back on it. So Pelosi and Schumer were like, yeah, we'll give you some wall. He was like, I'll give you more DACA kids. I don't care. I want some of that wall. And then you had the likes of Bannon and other people going, you can't do that. You can't do that. I think he'll do something with the DACA kids. You had a kid that's been here since they were 2 or 3 through no fault of their own. We don't need a brain drain. If we've educated him, we spent God knows how much money on him, then I think there's something there, and I think he sees that. So, and the fact that we're not producing kids is also, we don't want to get rid of a young group of people that could be Americans who may actually want to have children because our kids don't want to have children, which is the number one issue. When you think about things in this country, we think, well, the number one issue is this, that. Long term, the fact that we're not reproducing is the biggest detriment to our nation, long term. Because without reproducing, we don't have a nation. And that's a scary thing. And that's what Elon's always talking about. Elon's always talking about how important it is. Go look at some of these other nations, whether it's Japan or South Korea, any of the Western countries in Europe that you think about, like Germany, Britain, they're not reproducing. The only reason they've had uptick in any of their population has to do with the fact that they've had so much immigration, which is a crazy thing to say the least. One of the other things they got into was, of course, the magical pardoning. Will you or won't you? Whether it's January 6th or maybe yourself.
I asked you last time we sat down for an interview if you were going to pardon yourself. You said no. But now that President Biden has pardoned his son, Hunter, are you reconsidering? Might you pardon yourself?
I didn't do anything wrong. I was given the option And the lawyers told me, a very specific lawyer, I don't have to go into who, but very high up in the administration said, sir, if you pardon yourself, you're going to look guilty, and you did nothing wrong. Oh, I had that option. I could have saved myself a lot of legal fees, but it turned out that I was right. Look at what's gone on. Everything's being dropped.
Yeah, and I think it's going to. And I think he's going to be pardoned. I think Biden's going to do it as a final you to the left. I mean, you've got Eric Adams, who I think is also angling for a pardon, who's out there. But you had John Fetterman last week, right? Even some of you, we played his thing saying it was absolutely politically motivated. And some of you chimed in and goes, who would have thought that John Fetterman would be the voice of common sense and reason on the left? Yeah, I don't think a lot of people would have thought that. But I think he's going to be pardoned before that. And I think the reason he's going to be pardoned before that is because everybody's looking at this. Biden's already gone and done it. Why not go and do this and let's just start fresh and new, which is going to anger a lot of people, which is going to get a lot of people very upset on the left. They're going to lose their mind. They're going to be apoplectic. But what else are you going to do? You've already went and done this. You're seeing what's going on with the case with Alvin Bragg. They've already been pushing for that with Kathy Hochul and them. Alvin Bragg and the prosecutors don't want to give an inch, but the fact is it's going to happen. The two federal charges are gone. And what's going on in Atlanta, that's never getting off the ground. So, again, it's time to move on. It's time for a fresh start. And as far as the January 6th, he said he was going to look at it. I think he's going to pardon a lot of people. I also think there are going to be some people in there that aren't going to be pardoned. Maybe they get clemency, maybe they don't, because there are some people in there that went above and beyond in certain areas, and through no fault of Trump's, but their own, thinking that somehow there was going to be some sort of situation where they were going to be able to do something. I don't think they're going to get pardoned the way that people think, but I think a vast majority of January 6 people are going to be pardoned or offered clemency.
You think he's going to pardon Russ Ulbricht? The guy that built the Silk Road, he made such a big deal out of it.
Yeah, I think he's going to pardon some of those people. You know what I mean? Like some of those people that maybe the average person has no idea who they are, right? Like the Silk Road. People don't know what the Silk Road really is, and when talking about the internet, I think you will find some of that, even some of that crypto folks. So I think you're going to see some interesting pardons. There's no doubt about that. But do I think it's going to be a blanket, everybody's get out of jail free card? I don't think it's going to be that the way that the media wants it to be so they can gripe and moan. I really don't. But there's definitely going to be a decent amount of people who got charged for stuff they should never have been charged for. What they did was stupid, but essentially they shouldn't have given a ticket and moved on their way. But the government wanted to show, hey, look at us. My name's Chad Benson. I'm in for Matt Murphy, who'll be in here in a little bit for Brian Wilson. And again, starting the 2nd of January, it's the Chad Benson Show right here, then the Matt Murphy Show from 3 till 7 right here on Super Talk 99.7. Second opinion, you should always want one in everything in life. Measure twice, cut once. Do that with my friends over at Bulwark Capital. What are they? They're amazing, the way they handle money. First and foremost, risk management, number one. Lower risk, lower cost, lower volatility, give you the most upside potential. What is your retirement look like in your mind? Many people have no idea. They put money away. They hope it's okay. They get a statement every once in a while. There's nothing really building towards something that is, for them, it's just a cookie cutter solution. Don't be that. Call them today, 866-779-RISK, 866-779-RISK. When you do, talk to my buddy Zach Abraham, Chief Investment Officer over there. He's going to walk you through what they do at Bulwark Capital, how they handle money, risk management, number one, and how they give you the most upside potential, because that's what it's all about. If you don't have money and you can't keep your money on the downside, it's hard to grow your money, and they want to show you what they can do for you. You get a free second opinion with a risk management session. Doesn't cost you anything. Go to knowyourriskradio.com, KNOW, yourriskradio.com, or call 866-779-RISK today. Investment advisory services offered through Trek Financial LLC, and SEC registered investment advisor. Investments involve risk and are not a guarantee. Past performance does not guarantee future results. Trek 24378.
New details about 26-year-old Luigi Mangione. We'll tell you about it at 2 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yeah. Just checking out, reading a bunch of stuff about that cat. Anti-capitalist. So it's so funny because the anti-capitalist, for the most part, who lead the anti-capitalist charge have always had the upper hand. He went to a $40,000 a year school in high school. He went to an Ivy League school, and he believes all this BS that he was taught, and he was indoctrinated. He was. Yes, sir.
Remember, being a socialist means murder is okay as long as you're fighting the man.
That's it. Well, of course. Of course. But how does this, like, if you are romanticizing this guy, as so many people have, like, now you're going, this guy, he did it because, not because, like, at first it was like maybe his mom died or his wife died or his kid died. And people were trying to romanticize that. Was like, there's something there, right? But for a lot of people out here in the wackadoo world, these youngsters, they're the ones, these are the same people that are cheering him on, or the same people that are cheering on what's going on October 7th in Israel. Because this guy over here is a freedom fighter. He is showing everybody how capitalism is evil and how it has wronged so many people. But there's a lot of people out there that kind of romanticize him and they thought, well, you know what? If his kid died, you could see it. If they denied him something completely stupid that anybody else would get in any other insurance company. There was this kind of thought. But no, by the sounds of it, he's just a wackadoo who's gone to Ivy League colleges and bought into all the BS that's available. He's been indoctrinated, right? And if you go to some of the stuff that he's had out there, that quotes from Bruce Lee. It's not Bruce's fault, by the way, because Bruce is awesome. Him and Elvis living on an island with Tupac. We all know that. Socrates, as well as Crazy Unabomber. Theodore Kaczynski, remember the Crazy Unabomber? Who also was anti-technology, anti-capitalism. So interesting indeed. We're going to have more on that. Ken's going to have the latest on that. A bunch of other stuff to get to next hour. My name's Chad Benson. I'm in for Matt Murphy. This is Super Talk 99.7.
2 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 5 minutes. CEO murder update. New details about 26-year-old Luigi Mangione, the man police in Altoona, Pennsylvania, arrested this morning on firearms charges, whom New York City Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch says is believed to be their person of interest in the murder of Brian Thompson last Wednesday in Midtown Manhattan.
Upon further investigation, officers recovered a firearm on his person, as well as a suppressor, both consistent with the weapon used in the murder. They also recovered clothing, including a mask consistent with those worn by our wanted individual.
Now, the suspect was in a McDonald's and was recognized by an employee who then called local police. Marine veteran Daniel Penny is free. Walked out of the New York City courtroom today acquitted by a jury of the death of Jordan Neely, a homeless man who was ranting about dying and killing people on a crowded subway train last year before Penny stepped in. Witnesses hailed Penny a hero. Prosecutors tried to put him in prison. ABC News legal contributor Brian Buckmeyer says the defense did a good job establishing reasonable doubt.
This, I think, credit to the defense attorney, comes down to great jury selection, because ultimately the jury decided probably not so much based on the elements of the crime, but more so on, we think what Daniel Penny did was correct, that if someone was on the train with us, we would hope that a Daniel Penny would be there.
Protesters against the jury's decision and counter-protesters have been demonstrating outside the Manhattan court where the trial is taking place. Here in Nashville, the Morgan Wallen chair-throwing case is going to the grand jury. News 2 says a Nashville court spokesperson confirmed Wallen will waive his preliminary hearing and his case will be bound over to a grand jury. The CMA Entertainer of the Year faces 4 charges related to his throwing a chair off a Broadway rooftop bar onto the street below in April, narrowly missing Metro police officers on the sidewalk below. The Davidson County grand jury impaneled sometime next month. Metro Police looking for a suspect in a deadly shooting on I-24 yesterday. 20-year-old D'Angelo Black was in a car that was followed after a confrontation at a gas station. Someone in that other car started shooting, and Black was struck and later died at the hospital. The suspect vehicle was found unoccupied at a North Nashville apartment complex. TikTok continues to fight a potential ban in the United States. Here's Mike Dabusky.
TikTok has filed an emergency motion aimed at stopping a potential ban on the social media app that is set to take effect next month. The company says it's appealing an earlier decision that ruled the ban could move forward, now sending the issue to the Supreme Court. TikTok drew attention to the economic impact of a ban, claiming small businesses on the platform stand to lose around $1 billion if the app is taken off American app stores.
That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
A male was taken into custody today.
Did they catch him? Maybe. In Altoona? That's bizarre. But yes, a man matching the quote-unquote pictures that are out there, wearing even the same stuff, by the name of Luigi Mangione, was arrested, 26-year-old, in Altoona for killing of the CEO of United Healthcare. So apparently he had a manifesto-ish type writings about the disdain for healthcare in the insurance industry, a gun that matches the description of the gun seen in the crime, in the video, as well as a fake ID from New Jersey. So 6 days out. Looks like they maybe have him. He's definitely I don't think they're looking elsewhere at this moment in time. It's like OJ, right? Like they never found the killer. They just gave up. Well, we can't find him. But I don't know if there's going to be a bunch of people out there looking, because this guy, how many people are walking around with like matching sets of stuff? Like this isn't one of those things like you'd read in the Old West where Jesse James, all the people there would do something to try to hide him. You know, I don't think there's a bunch of people walking around with the same kind of stuff matching this guy's build in all over the country so they could help him get away. What do you think? Maybe.
I love the fact that this guy's going to get prosecuted, and the whole time that he's sitting in the courtroom, his attitude's going to be, but I did a good thing.
Yeah, oh yeah, totally.
I struck a blow for socialism.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah, struck against capitalism, which, by the way, is the greatest form of get out of poor ever.
Ever.
It's not even close. I remember watching Bono talk about, you know, when he was younger and he's a pop star and all this stuff. And, you know, he's very much a anti-establishment kind of guy. And then he realized, no. Capitalism's it. Capitalism has pulled more people out of being poor than anything else. If you look around the globe, back in the 80s and 90s, what we would consider poor was through the roof globally. What we would consider famine was all over the place. Now the extreme famine is small, and poor by those standards is less than 10%. Doesn't mean there's not poor people. Again, we live in a much different world. We can't judge it by our standards. Our standards is people who are poor are kind of fat, a little unhealthy. They have junk food. They have phones, they have cars, they have air conditioning in their homes.
Our poor are literally some of the richest people on the planet.
Yeah. If you are, and I don't think people realize it, if you're poor and you make $50,000 a year for a family of 20, comparatively to the rest of the globe, $20,000. Now, again, it's different because it's a little bit more expensive to live here than live other places, but also the things we have. How many people out there are quote unquote underneath the poverty line, have a phone, have cable, have Netflix, have all the things that people around the globe would dream to have. Indoor plumbing.
Electricity.
Oh.
Hot and running water.
The running water thing, by the way, is, for those of you guys have no idea, go look at other parts of the globe to find out that running water is running away from people. Literally. There is no, they dig wells because these people have nothing. And it's 1,000 times better than it used to be. And that's all because of capitalism. And this guy was an anti-capitalistic guy, according to the writings. Now, again, this is alleged. He's a person of interest. But like I said, I don't think anybody else is out there going, all right, well, keep going because this guy might not be it. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. So we shall see. But we're going to find out more about him, and I'm sure in the next few 24 to 48 hours. And what they're talking about. Like, what are you talking about, that guy? So did you kill him? Did he? And when you go and read this dude's life, $40,000 a year private school in high school, Ivy Leaguer, wanted to be an AI programmer. Seemed to have it. And then somewhere along the line, he's been indoctrinated probably. He's been pushed in such a way inside of school, seeing all of the bad things in theory that he thinks is going on in his world, that he wants to right the wrong. And part of that is healthcare is evil and bad. And because it's evil and bad, voila, here it is. I'm going to go fix the problem by shooting somebody, which will start a conversation, which it didn't.
Well, and don't forget, by killing him, he avoided the guy needing health care.
He did.
So he did him a favor.
He did. So look at that. See, he's always thinking. Here's something else. You got to think about this for a second. So many people jumped on the left side of the aisle. This anger that's out there, and there's plenty of anger, and we've seen it in ways that we've never felt it before in our world because of social media and because people now just, they're willing to march against the Jews. They're willing to go out there and literally campaign, if you will, for the genocide of the Jews. Like, yeah, because they're killing all of the Palestinians and they have no idea what they're talking about because they're being taught this in most places, super left-leaning, super ridiculous, upper middle class Ivy League schools who are pumping crap into their minds that you just sit there and go, no normal person would ever be this stupid. And they're being taught this insanity. And then they go out there and are pulling for it. I tell you, if 9/11 happened today, there would be people marching in the streets saying, we got what we deserved. We're bad people. I wish they would have done more. This is exactly what we need to bring down the man. And that's terrifying to think. But it's true. It's absolutely true. And this guy is a hero to some people. But he killed a man. He's not a hero. He's not a sex symbol. He killed a man who had a job. Right? Like, and I don't know how many people wake up when they're younger and go, you know what I want to be one day? The CEO of a major corporation, like healthcare, where I deny coverage to a lot of people and people hate me. And where, while I make good money, the reality is I will have a target on my back because I am going to be perceived as a monster. I don't think that was his goal in life. But somewhere along the line, that's what he became. And he got paid well for it. Made $10 million last year. Now, a lot of that stock and stuff like that, but this is also what it's become. It's become class warfare. It's what you're seeing a lot of this stuff is class warfare, where whenever you hear people mention him, it is the CEOs of the companies, the white guy, how much money they make, right? It's always the C-suite, how much money, all of that stuff, and the color of the skin, especially if it's white. Got to double down on the white. Got to double down on that white because he's a bad, evil man. Bad, evil man, for sure. Like I said, we're going to have more in the next couple days about this. But there is no doubt that this is started a conversation in this country about healthcare. And many of you chimed in because it is expensive. It is frustrating as can be. It is not effective. But so many people out there say, well, what about socialized medicine? Let me tell you about socialized medicine. Talked a bit about it on Friday. Does it have some things that are okay about it? Yeah. Is it expensive? Ours is expensive. But what they don't have is any research, development, money going into things. What they get usually is from us. What they get when you see breakthroughs in medicine, very rarely does it come from a lot of different places like Britain. Now, Britain's done some good things, but they don't have that. They don't. And it is a business. And if you want things to be successful, you want things to grow, and you want things to be healthy and work, profit's where it's at. And it can be frustrating. I've told you guys how expensive my healthcare was. It's through the roof. I could afford like a $500,000 home based on what I pay. And I still go out and have another healthcare provider that I work with who is what they call a concierge doctor, which means I pay him a monthly rate, which isn't very expensive, by the way, and I get access to him pretty much 24/7.
Do you remember the rate by any chance?
It's about $140, $150, and that covers me and all the kids. And,
wow.
But he doesn't deal with insurance. So when I go to him and I want something done, but I pay his rates, though. So if I want to, and this is a perfect example. Let's say I want to have I need something done where it's one of the kids hurt their arm. They need an x-ray. I pay his rate at the hospital wherever we get it done. So that might be $10, whatever it is. Same thing with a CAT scan or an MRI. You find out, what do you mean they only charge him $100? They charge us X amount. So I get that. But if it's
you're getting the cash rate, right?
I'm basically getting the cash rate.
Which is always cheaper than insurance.
100%. I mean, always cheaper than insurance. But that being said, if that's something big where they need surgery, he's not doing it. So, and that's where that insurance comes in. And so we decided, hey, look, we'll get one of those catastrophic things, which I thought, well, it's so cheap, right? Like to even hit our deductible would be through the roof. It's still so damn expensive. So there is a conversation to be had. And to show you how ridiculous sometimes insurance is, it's easier and cheaper for me to pay cash for my prescriptions than to go through my insurance. My insurance is more than it, even if I try to cover my deductible.
If you get a recommendation from your doctor, like he says you need to see an oncologist or you need to see an eye specialist.
Yeah.
Is your insurance company going to take that recommendation since he's not in their network?
Luckily, the eye doctor I saw,
I'm just using that as an example.
No, that's a good example. No, you'll have to go through their program to get to that point. But you come to them and say, look, I've already gone to a doctor. This is what I do. And a lot of times they're like, okay, I get that. And which saves them a little bit of time too. And then they'll take a quick look and then do a recommendation. But you see how long it takes at that point in time. Because you go from being somebody who's being treated by a doctor and you have a relationship to somebody, for the most part, you become a number, right? You're a number. And you've got, if you guys, and some of you listening, you guys are probably familiar with it because I've heard some of you chime in, but you go into a doctor's office, they've got a set amount of time that you're supposed to spend with each patient. And because it's a conveyor belt. Right? They're giving you clients, and they want you to get through those. When I go see my guy, I spend an hour with him. We talk about all kinds of stuff. We BS about life. My wife's in there. We're having a good time. We talk. He goes through it all. It is worth that for that, which is great.
So you're the reason my appointment was delayed by an hour.
It could have been. Well, the thing is, though, you're not going to that guy. But you go to another doctor, you realize the difference of like when I walk in, my guy's, Chad, what's going on, man? How's radio? We go through all the stuff we talk before we ever get to it. When you go see another doctor, it's like they're looking at the thing. Mr. Benson, what can I help you with? Da-da-da-da-da-da. Get you in and out.
You got 10 seconds. Go.
Yeah, it's crazy. Describe everything that's wrong with you in 10 seconds. And go. Frustrating indeed. My name's Chad Benson. I'm in for Matt Murphy, who will be in here in a little bit. For Brian Wilson, this is Super Talk 99.7. MyPillow right now has a deep discount on all the classic MyPillow, starting as low as $14.88. You can get 10 of these, make great Christmas gifts, different loft levels and size. That means that they have queens, those are $18.88, and kings, those are $19.88. But the loft level, when it comes to how much you want in there, do you want one that's kind of a thinner pillow, one that's big and firm? That choice is yours. Still $14.88, 60-day money-back guarantee extended out through March. On top of that, you get a 10-year warranty, made in the USA, the lowest price ever. They got great discounts on pet beds, amazing deals on mattress toppers, slippers, sandals, you name it. MyPillow has them all made in the USA, all incredible. But the MyPillow Classic, just $14.88. Get them now. Get them before Christmas, and get that extended money-back guarantee out another month or so with MyPillow. Go to MyPillow.com/Benson to save big now. MyPillow.com/Benson. MyPillow.com/Benson.
The very latest on Luigi Mangione, the person of interest in the CEO murder, arrested this morning at a McDonald's. We'll tell you more at 2:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Ponzi Crash Cam Network is tapped into traffic cameras in Middle Tennessee, often giving us the proof needed to win your case. So call Ponzi Law today, 615-244-4321.
What was that?
Well, what do you think is the most viewed Christmas film in the United States? It's my family's favorite, Home Alone, according to Statista. Our other top pick, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, came in at a
Fixed. Belle, you okay? This is why you don't get to fly the plane.
Yeah, people are changing things in here without thinking.
Okay, fired. Speaking of changing things, there's a change going on in the Middle East.
HTS is a U.S. designated terrorist organization and has been since 2018. Jelani, its leader, is a specifically designated terrorist as well. So, yes, they have somewhat separated themselves from al-Qaeda and ISIS, but their origins are that, and many of their fighters are still part of that overhaul jihadist movement.
So Assad kingdom, if you will, is over. 50-year run for the Assad family. And this weekend, eventually, everybody met in Damascus. And it was ugly and brutal and fast. So about 2.5, 3 weeks ago, they saw an opening. They being several organizations, several tribes, several terrorist groups, freedom fighters, who normally would be caught nowhere near each other. And lo and behold, out of nowhere, they decide to team up because nothing binds a group together more than hating something and their disdain for Assad, who at that time about 60 to 70% of the nation. Now, let's not forget, Assad bombed his own people and is brutal. Even to the people that were inside of his sphere of control. He chemically gassed people. Obama did nothing. Trump lit him up like a firecracker, and he stopped it. That was good. But you've got now more. It's unstable already, right? The instability throughout the Middle East is ever since October 7th is growing, and it's going to get much worse because now you have a hornet's nest of groups now that are looking at each other. HTS being one of them, led by this guy Jabali, who was Al-Qaeda for a bit. Then he's like, maybe I'll be ISIS, right? And then he's like, I'm going to start my own thing. I'm going to be a little bit more moderate. And the way he's talking is, look, I want us to have a free Syria, but you used groups like ISIS, like the Kurds, like parts of Al-Qaeda, several other organizations that have been fighting for a long time against Assad. I don't think they're willing to give up their opportunity to control something. Then you had Israel come in and take a portion of land that they had given up. On top of that, Turkey played a role in this. So they're not going to like the fact that the Kurds were involved as well as the fact that ISIS is involved. So you have all of these groups, and that's what Trump gets to walk into. And it is going to be, I think, a hornet's nest of evil because they're going to try to spread their wings. And as I was telling the guys earlier, think of Haiti and then think of someplace like Afghanistan. Afghanistan, for all its nastiness, has got some stability with the Taliban. We don't like the way they treat people. We think it's brutal and awful, back-assward. And you look out there and you think to yourself, my goodness, you guys are living like it's the 6th century. That being said, I've always said this about dictators and rulers. As long as you keep crazy in, most people are willing to turn a blind eye nation-wise. That was it. See, the problem with eventually the first time with Saddam Hussein is Saddam decided to go to Kuwait, right? But Saddam, for the most part, kept crazy in. And he didn't care what religion you were, by the way. He didn't really care at all. Christians lived there. He didn't care. It wasn't a big deal to him. this guy's not going to be able to keep crazy in. Because to do that, you're going to have to fight all of these groups. And you've got ISIS and the fear of the rise of ISIS, so we might have to play a role in this. You've got what might happen between Jordan and them. Turkey is going to want a major role in this, but you got to get rid of the Kurds. So unstable indeed. So don't be surprised to see these groups come together, then all of a sudden want their own piece of something, and then the battle begin all over again. For all these people celebrating out there, it's like, this is great. We're going to be going back to our country and everything. Now, the good news is they're freeing people who have been in captivity, is the best way to describe it, as political hostages. Some of them, I saw a couple little kids who were born in jail. They had never been free. Their whole families were in there. And that is insane. There's also a couple journalists. One of the journalists, ours, Mr. Tice, his family, they're hoping to get him back. They don't quite know where he's at, but I'm sure they're going to find that out because they're freeing people left, right, and center. But that also means you're probably freeing some people that aren't good people. So this is going to be an ugly situation for the time being. And let's not forget the fact, a very important one, chemical weapons are everywhere there. And one thing we know about jihadists is anything they get their hands on, they would love to use. It doesn't mean they're going to use it here, but it does mean it may be available. So get ready for that. Trump's heading in as he's trying to figure out what to do with Ukraine, and I think he's got that down to a certain extent outside of the, crossing the T's and dotting the I's. The ugly side of this is what's going to happen in the Middle East, because the more instability there is, the harder it's going to be to get any kind of deal. My name's Chad Benson. I'm in for Matt Murphy. You'll be in here in a little while for Brian Wilson. This is Super Talk 99.7.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast coming up in 5 minutes. CEO murder update. We're learning more about 26-year-old Luigi Mangione, the person New York PD Commissioner Jessica Tisch says Altoona police arrested this morning at a fast food restaurant.
The suspect was in a McDonald's and was recognized by an employee who then called local police. Responding officers questioned the suspect, who was acting suspiciously and was carrying multiple fraudulent IDs as well as a U.S. passport.
She says he had a weapon similar to what was used to murder Brian Thompson, and writings critical of the insurance industry. Marine veteran Daniel Penny's a free man. ABC News legal contributor Brian Buckmeyer says there's no real recourse for the prosecution who tried to put Penny in prison for the death of Jordan Neely after a chokehold.
This case is over. I mean, both in terms of their decision to ultimately tell the judge they wanted to dismiss that top count, and then the jury coming back and saying not mistrial, not hung, but not guilty on that criminal negligent homicide. I can't see a legal recourse for the prosecution.
Yeah, the jury sided with the defense, who said Penny never intended to kill Neely, who was homeless, high, and ranting about killing people on a crowded New York City subway. Right now in Nashville, Metro officials say the emergency overflow shelter helped 1,308 people seeking refuge from the cold last week. EMS was called on 2 consecutive days for seizures with the same person. One person called EMS for himself during a mental health crisis. No other major medical emergencies there at the shelter. They ask if you want and can help. There are volunteer opportunities at We Go Central to assist individuals in finding bus routes. You can sign up via Hands on Nashville. They need donations of hygiene products. Those are accepted Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. over at Brick Church Pike. And that's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Raycon, best earbuds around. Wear my Raycons every single day. Now, the everyday earbuds from Raycon are awesome. I'm an audiophile. I live and breathe audio. It's what I do for a living, from voiceovers to editing to all the things I do. I want to make sure everything sounds pure. I need something I'm going to wear in my ears every day, and that's this. These everyday earbuds are incredible. Premium sound that won't break the bank. Now, I'm going to tell you this. Active noise cancellation and something like this, you're going to spend God knows how much. With these, not even $100. Fit, feel, comfort, fast charging, multi-connectivity. You're going to love these things. I love them. They've got tons of amazing discounts. And this holiday season, give the gift of the best sound around. Premium audio from Raycon. Go to buyraycon.com/Chad. With that, you get a 30-day happiness guarantee, free shipping, and 25% off all of the site. That's buyraycon.com/Chad. Buyraycon.com/Chad.
There are a lot of angry people out here. The jury deliberated last week. We know that Friday, the judge dismissed the manslaughter charge. The jury was asked to reconvene today to focus over the weekend on that lesser charge of criminal negligent homicide, which they did.
Daniel Penny has been found not guilty. So Friday, they couldn't come up with the big charge. And so they said, well, we'll move on. Then they went to the lesser charge. And he was acquitted of that. Now, this was a guy who was on a subway in New York City when a guy by the name of Jordan Neely, a 30-year-old, who was schizophrenic, bipolar, on drugs, threatening to kill everybody, they got into a scuffle. He put him in a chokehold, and he died. And, of course, that has led to the usual suspects screaming and yelling, this can't happen, this can't happen. You know what shouldn't happen? A man who has 42 arrests out on the streets, a man who is known to be schizophrenic and a drug addict out on the streets. He was also wanted at the time for another assault on a woman. That shouldn't happen. That is the biggest issue. The family can be out there and say, we need justice here. Where was his justice? You're a 30-year-old who was mentally unstable. You had a 30-year-old who was up on drugs, and you as a parent are out there screaming, where's my justice for my kid? Well, why weren't you fighting for his justice with any one of the 42 arrests that he had had? Tough love? Okay, that's fine. But why are you around now? Out of curiosity. And by the way, this kid had no chance in life when you look at it. His mother was murdered and put in a suitcase. He had to testify to that. He had been bounced around all over the place. What came first, drugs or mental illness? I couldn't tell you. But sitting there saying, oh, well, I want justice for my kid. I miss my kid. That may be true, but chances are you missed your kid a long time ago because your kid wasn't there anymore. And the city and the services, they let them and him down.
I just want to say, I miss my son. My son didn't have to go through this. I didn't have to go through this either. It hurts. Really, really hurts.
As it should. But I bet it hurt for all those years that you didn't know where your kid was. All those years your kid was in and out of jail. All those years that you knew he was a mess. But now you show up because he's been killed and you feel bad. Maybe there's a paycheck at the end of it. I don't know. Because that's what you're going to do. You're going to go on with a civil trial. This system let him down. And you as a parent may have given him every opportunity in the world. You may have tried everything. But you had to go tough love. But to blame Jordan Neely for doing what he thought was best at a time when people were being threatened, people were scared, that there had been numerous assaults, and the police were where? Nowhere. With all that being said, what do you think's happening? Well, there's all kinds of people protesting. Oh, there is? This is a man by the name of Hawk. Hawk is the head of the BLM no, not the Bureau of Land Management. That would be hilarious. I'm at the wrong protest.
Where are the cows we saving?
Oh, my God.
We're on protest.
So he is pissed and angry, as you do. And as an activist, you got to go overboard and talk about retribution.
We need some black vigilantes.
That's right.
People want to jump up and choke us and kill us for being loud. How about we do the same when they attempt to oppress us?
Right.
I'm tired.
Tired.
Where were you when he was doing that to other women? Where were you when he had lost his mind, schizophrenic, out on drugs, threatening people? Where were you then? You weren't. You're there because the camera's there and it looks great and you want to talk the part. We want them. What if it was a black man that did it to Jordan? Would you feel the same? What if Jordan was doing this to a black woman? Oh, wait. There were black women on the train and Mr. Penny saved her. Would you feel the same way? You're there because of the cameras. This guy had no chance. This guy was put in a position, Daniel Penny, that he thought he had to do something because people thought he was. Because he wasn't saying, hey, guys, because he was a Michael Jackson impersonator. And everybody said, by all accounts, he was a great one. He wasn't saying, watch me dance, give me some money. He was doing what? Threatening to kill everybody, threatening to beat everybody up, threatening to do stuff. So this guy took it upon himself. Do you think that, oh, yeah, Daniel Penny woke up in the day and goes, you know what I'm going to do today? Go choke a black man out on a subway. Get mine.
I'm pretty sure that didn't Michael pretty much threaten to kill people? It's like if you talk about what happened in this bedroom, then no, I'm just kidding. Sorry.
I did. I'll throw you out a window. I won't do that. Somebody else might. The failure came from the system and his family. I'm not saying all families fail. My sister is a hot freaking mess. You guys will learn this as you listen to the show. I'm not quiet about it. She was a drug addict. She was a hot mess. And my mother gave her every opportunity. But I tell you what, if something would have happened to my sister, well, I'd be upset that something happened to my sister. Based on all the things that she had gone through, it's unfortunate, but would she have probably deserved it? Damn Skippy. And I think the same thing here. This guy didn't deserve to die. But nobody deserved to be threatened on a train. And where was New York City? Nowhere to be found. Even the mayor, Adams, said, look, they've politicized this. They've turned this into something that it shouldn't have been. Because he recognized the nightmare that it had become. If you go back to the 80s, there were horrific incidents on the train. And there was a guy who had had enough, and he became really famous. He was acquitted. He took a gun, and when a bunch of youths approached him, and they were black, he shot them. I don't think he killed any of them, but he was acquitted. And that became a big deal back in the day. Well, that's what it's like now. It's a bit of anarchy. But I go back to the failure came from the system. The failure came from the fact that the system failed over and over again. He was allowed out of jail over and over again. Nobody said, maybe this guy needs to be institutionalized. Because back in my day, when somebody was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, a van would roll up eventually and say, I don't think this person should be on the streets. But we've decided that it's a lifestyle in some areas. So away it goes. But to think that you want some vigilante justice, now you're going to go out and do what? Out of curiosity. You want to turn this into something, but you understand that this guy wasn't well, that this guy didn't mean to kill him, but the cameras are there, so you got to say something. Somebody just texted in, the government can't make money off people like a man who got killed in the subway. The government spends their time and their resources going after fathers in the family courts because they know they can steal their money. Maybe a little. Bernard Getz, thank you very much for that. We'll get to that. But there might be a little bit of truth to that. There's definitely, if it's not a money-making thing. And remember, you go back to a situation where you had Reagan decide that they weren't going to have mental health facilities anymore. And what ended up happening? They eventually got out, and then were just on the streets. So we have God knows how many people on the streets that are addicted to drugs and mentally ill. And the system has failed them. And our systems are continuing to fail them. And what that does is it fails us. So, yeah. Bernard Getz, somebody's texting, that is 2 people. Subway Vigilante. I remember that. It was crazy when he did that. But that was back in the day when, if you've ever seen any of these 80s movies like Death Wish, it was all like that. Like going in the subway in New York, you literally took your life in your hands. And this guy said no more. But Daniel Penny didn't do that. But the thought of going after him over and over again, I'm going to go show everybody here, and we'll get some black vigilante. It's not about that. If that was a white guy that threatened to kill a bunch of people and a black guy put him in a chokehold, you know what? That guy deserved it. Maybe not deserved to die, because I don't think that was the thing. But what do you expect people to do? At some point in time, people push back. And they did. We have a person of interest in the shooting of the CEO. Luigi Mangione, 26-year-old, looks to be from New Jersey, Maryland. He went to a super highfalutin school, as I like to call it. And it's very interesting what they found on him, because we were saying today, it's like, what are the chances that there just happens to be somebody wearing a coat similar, looking somewhat like him, having a similar gun, and oh, by the way, inside of all of his effects, he has a manifesto about the disdain of capitalism and insurance companies. So it wasn't the romanticizing of a person who was getting revenge for losing their child or their wife. It was an upper middle class, snot-nosed kid who decided to kill a man because he wanted to start a conversation potentially about the evil of capitalism in this country. And this 26-year-old, they're talking about the fact that he was a climate change nut job, as well as a very much, it's interesting because he has a lot of quotes that they have said throughout the stuff as they've now searched his internet profile. A lot of quotes from the Unabomber, yet he went to school, this guy, to be a AI guy and programmer and stuff like that, where the Unabomber was absolutely against technology. So bizarre. So bizarre. I'm sure we're going to learn more in the next 24 hours or so, but they're pretty sure they caught him in Altoona. Pretty sure. I don't know if they're looking for anybody else, but I have a feeling they got the guy. Do I really think it's weird? Yeah, I think it's the guy. It's not. I don't think it's too convenient. I think that people are looking for him. And this guy, I don't think, was being that hard. I don't think he was playing that hard. I think he was enjoying the limelight, and he's probably enjoying it now. He's probably enjoying all the stuff that's going on now, all of the in the cuffs, the pictures, the whole 9 yards. You can't be infamous if you don't have that part of fame. And nobody knew who he was, and now maybe they do. We'll see. Matt Murphy's coming up next. I am Chad Benson, right here on Super Talk 99.7. Little Chuck Mangione. No relations to Luigi Mangione.
You don't know that. Don't say that to the audience. You don't know that's true.
I'm thinking it's true. Oh my God, how crazy would that be? So,
how crazy is it that you know that this is Chuck Mangione?
Wait a minute. How do you not know this is Chuck Mangione?
I played this when I was 15 years old on WTWA, your favorite easy listening hits from the 40s to the 80s.
When it was a current?
When it was a current.
Maybe. Hey, can you sling that hot Mangione?
Oh, yeah, it was hot. That was so hot.
What's going on?
There's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, it's an interesting Monday.
It is. I mean, normally it's quiet this time of year, but this guy they caught in Altoona, man, if you're going to get caught, Altoona's the place to do it.
Well, last time a fast food joint got that much action, it was Michael Douglas in Falling Down.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people think this guy is like. This guy was some hero. And I was telling Belle before the show, like, everybody's romanticized him, like, maybe his kid died or this, that, and the other. What if he's just a jerk and just decided to randomly just...
Well, I think what he's going to turn out to be is an anti-capitalist,
That's what he is.
Marxist, and it's not just the healthcare system, although he's pointing toward the healthcare system.
That's in the news. They're already going through his stuff. He's got... And it's weird because he went to a private school, cost $40,000 a year.
Sure.
Went to an Ivy League school as well.
Okay.
He's an upper middle class, everything that you would think that you would... He's on the front foot of life, and he's been indoctrinated somewhere along the line, and he decided that he's anti-capitalist, super climate change, like, let's get rid of everything. We'll all walk around barefoot, and that'll save the planet. And he should watch Landman.
Well, and I think we can distinguish between, and I don't know how much you guys have gotten into it today, and I'm going to get into it this afternoon. You can distinguish between some of the emotions that you feel about the healthcare industry versus the idea that someone assassinated a man in cold blood on a city street, right? Those two things do not necessarily have to gravitate you to the same place, those two emotions.
You can be angry and frustrated with the healthcare industry, and you could understand, like Chris Rock said, I would never, but I understand. It's the same thing. You can be frustrated and have an understanding, but never do it, and not turn him into, what they wanted to turn him into, Robin Hood or one of these, some sort of, sexy, awesome, like, look at this guy fighting the man BS, a folk hero, which he's not.
Anybody think it's ironic that he's Mr. Anti-Capitalist and he is in the most capitalist place on planet Earth?
Yeah, well,
McDonald's.
You know what? He could have it his way.
What I find ironic
I'm loving it.
is that apparently murder is okay if you're a socialist. That's fine.
You can't start a revolution, Bell, without that first
omelet eggs.
Murder.
Omelet eggs. But we're not even starting with that. We're starting with Daniel Penny today, but we'll get to the Luigi's stuff, too.
That guy right there. Matt, next. In for Brian. I'm Chad. Thanks so much. Super Talk 99.7.